Hi, my name is Taylor Pano, and this is my case study on Gap. Gap has been publicly recognized for their leadership in equal pay and gender equality. The company culture at Gap continues to break gender norms and enable women to rise through the ranks through several policies and practices. Gap makes it their mission to eliminate the gender pay gap within their company and proves to be consistent in equally paying women and men for equal work. While Gap has achieved a great deal for gender inclusivity, they can do even more to encourage women and members of all gender identities. Gap has exercised excellent leadership in the fight to eliminate the gender pay gap. However, they can do even more to promote gender inclusivity. Gap has three weak elements. They need to improve their family policies. They are lacking gender inclusivity efforts for the LGBTQIA+ community, and they are lacking conversations about sexual harassment in the workplace. I will use 5 criteria to evaluate GAP's efforts to eliminate gender bias and discrimination. These criteria are pay measures, female representation, family policies, LGBTQIA+ community, and sexual harassment in the workplace. GAP can contribute their success in creating a gender-inclusive environment to 3 major strengths: pay measures, female representation, and family policies. GAP has conveyed several efforts to ensure that women and men are getting paid equally at their company. GAP has also succeeded in having female representation in high ranks at their company. Lastly, they have created family policies to encourage women with their families to feel comfortable at work. GAP's family policies have contributed to the culture of gender inclusivity at the company. However, GAP can improve and add to their company's family policies to further eliminate gender bias. GAP also falls short on 2 other aspects: LGBTQIA+ community inclusivity and sexual harassment policies. GAP needs to further improve their family policies in order to reduce gender bias. GAP also needs to add new policies within the company. GAP does not provide any evidence that they are making efforts to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. Women are greatly affected by sexual harassment in the workplace. GAP needs to protect women from experienced sexual harassment at their company and allow them to feel safe reporting incidents if they do occur. GAP is also lacking efforts to promote LGBTQIA+ community inclusivity in the workplace. GAP cannot truly be a gender inclusive company if they do not account for members of all varying gender identities. GAP must make members of all gender identities, not just women and men, feel included and safe at their company. GAP's 3 major strengths are pay measures, female representation, and family policies. In order to ensure equal pay amongst genders and eliminate gender bias, GAP analyzes pay data annually and provides information to empower managers. GAP created a model to examine equal pay within their company and commissioned a leading gender and diversity consulting firm, Exponential Talent, to validate the numbers. The findings of this model were statistically validated. There was no significant gender wage gap present at GAP globally or within any of their regions. GAP can use this measure to check and maintain that there is no gender wage gap at their company. Women are highly accounted for at GAP. Women make up 75% of GAP's employees. 53% of GAP's leadership team are women, and 80% of brand presidents are women. Women in leadership positions at GAP contribute to the culture of gender inclusivity. Men are more accepting of women as leaders, and women feel confident to work their way up in the company. Female leadership at GAP also benefits the women working at lower ranks for the company. Women at lower ranks do better in terms of representation and wages when there is female representation at higher ranks. GAP has worked towards normalizing working women with families. Several efforts have been made to reduce biases towards working mothers and to encourage women that they can work and raise a family without any sanctions. Flexible schedules have become the norm at GAP to benefit both women and men with families. Employees are able to work around the schedule of their child's soccer games as long as they are getting their work done. Flexible work schedules encourage women that they can work full-time and have time for family. This allows women to make higher salaries because they do not have to choose a part-time position to make time for their families. GAP's 3 major weaknesses are family policies, lack of LGBTQIA+ community inclusivity, and no policies regarding sexual harassment in the workplace. While flexible work schedules can be very beneficial, they may also be negative. Flexible schedules may blur the lines between personal life and work life. The ROW program allows employees to work when and where they would like. Working from home encourages consistent communication and may become stressful. Employees that work from home might feel as though there are no boundaries between work and home, which may cause a decrease in work productivity and low performance levels. Gap does not offer paid maternity or paternity leave for all locations. Gap UK is the only location that provides paid maternity or paternity leave. Other locations only provide options such as a flexible work hours or a phase in, phase out program. This allows room for maternity leave bias to form within the company. Gap wants to break gender norms and promote gender inclusivity throughout their company. However, Gap's policies only discuss gender inclusivity for women and do not include any policies or inclusive actions for people who are non binary, gender fluid, or any other gender identity. Gap's Diversity and Inclusion Council is not afraid to tackle big issues such as a racially motivated shooting or discriminatory bills against transgender people. This is a good start, but it's the only place that members of the LGBTQIA+ community are mentioned throughout the case. GAP cannot be a fully gender inclusive if they are not making an effort to make members of all different gender identities feel welcome and safe at their company. GAP can do a better job making the LGBTQIA+ community feel safe at work. GAP is lacking policies to protect women from sexual harassment in the workplace. 1 in 3 women report to have been victims of sexual harassment in the workplace. Sexual harassment can impede women's workplace advancement and earnings, and their job performance. Women who experience sexual harassment in the workplace are more likely to develop anxiety and depression, which is associated with low productivity and poor work performance. Women often do not feel safe reporting sexual harassment to their employers in fear of inaction, retaliation, or being fired. Women who do not address sexual harassment are less likely to negotiate salary and raise, causing their long-term earnings to be lower. GAP lacks policies that would make women feel safe reporting sexual harassment in the workplace. GAP does not have any policies in place that show a no tolerance for sexual harassment in the workplace. GAP can do better to make women feel safe against sexual harassment at GAP. GAP's overall goal should be to maintain the current efforts to eliminate the gender pay gap in the short term, but in the long term, they must address efforts to include the LGBTQIA+ community and create policies regarding sexual harassment in the workplace if they want to further improve diversity and inclusion efforts. GAP's short-term plans include boundaries being set to avoid blurring the lines between home and work life. GAP can implement a policy that employees can only work a maximum number of hours a week to prevent employees with flexible schedules from being overworked. GAP should implement maternity and paternity leave bias training sessions to reduce bias. GAP can begin to promote inclusivity for all genders by encouraging all employees to share their preferred pronouns. Preferred pronouns can be included at the bottom of all emails that are sent. Normalizing the use of pronouns will help to create a company culture that moves away from binary-based assumptions about gender. GAP can also provide information for resources for sexual assault victims to their employees, as well as raise general awareness about sexual assault in the workplace. GAP can put clear harassment reporting procedures in place. All members of the company must feel comfortable reporting any instances of harassment. GAP's long-term plans include GAP should provide paid maternity leave for their employees. Paid paternity will help distribute childcare more evenly between parents, which in turn will decrease gender stereotypes. GAP can make a public commitment to gender inclusivity in their hiring and promotion process that includes all varying gender identities. GAP can add LGBTQIA+ inclusivity to their company values and publish its commitment to their business code of conduct. GAP can begin to install inclusive facilities in the workplace. This can mean allocating a few bathrooms as gender neutral. This will help to accommodate employees of varying gender identities, as well as contribute to creating a company culture that moves away from binary-based assumptions about gender. GAP must implement a zero tolerance policy in their code of conduct that states any sexual harassment in the workplace will not be tolerated. The harasser may be terminated from employment. This should encourage women to feel more comfortable reporting instances of sexual harassment in the workplace. Finally, GAP should implement mandatory training sessions for all members of the company. These training sessions will educate members of the company on what sexual harassment is, how to report it, and what the ramifications are if it occurs. These sessions should take at least every 6 months.